of our sins, for you know that we were raised up in this daughter of Babylon, so we have learned all of her ways. And we know that there are certain restrictions that are placed upon us that is a part of our servitude, is part of our curses, that captivity that we have to undergo here in the daughter of Babylon. But this pressure will make true freedom that much more glorious when we are able to shed the heavy weight of these burdens of Babylon. We pray, Abba Father, that you would allow us to borrow of your spirit of understanding on this night. And we ask these prayers not only for those that gather with us physically, but even those that gather by way of phones and by way of internet, those that gather out of a pure heart to serve you in truth and in spirit. In Yahshua HaMashiach's holy and divine name we pray. Amen and hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
All right. Now, I pray that everybody was able to survive the onslaught of their families on trying to get them to participate in pagan festivities, and the newer you are in the Word, you know, the more trouble that is. But believe it or not, even being in the Word for a while, you'll find that, people will pause and stepping away from all of those things, and then you look back up and they're right back at asking you to partake into those things. And what it is about testing your resolve and whether or not you still are going to walk in that manner. I used to work with this girl. She was a real nice girl, and I you know, liked her a lot. She used to help me out a lot. You know, a married woman with kids, family woman, but how she asked me about, like, and she knew what I believed in. She knew how I operated, and it was almost you know, funny when she got to the point of asking me, so you still don't eat shrimp? So how she would wait like 6 months and then turn around and ask me again, because it's like it's wearing on her that, you know, she has heard my explanation as to why, but it was like if I at any point was like, well, now I started back eating it. Oh man, you could see that she was ready to release this weight, because she was still eating it, but she had already, you know, looked up those things after having that conversation. So she knew that it was something that was not only not good for her, but it was also against what the Most High set up. So, but the irony is, it wasn't based on any of those things. This conversation that happened every 6 months or so was really based on whether or not I was continuing to not eat, you know, shrimp and crab legs. And anybody who knew me, you know, before I got in the Word, they knew that, you know, shrimp and crab legs was my thing. Okay? So, you know, by continuing to ask me that, it was, they were trying to use that as a gauge, which is the very thing that people are doing with these Christmas holidays and things of that nature, to try and ask you. It's not really about you. It's really about themselves and how uncomfortable you make them feel by walking in the correct way. Right before I got here, there was a program, Adam Ruins Everything, was on about Christmas, and oh man, it is absolutely hilarious how he just completely, demolished this thing. And for some people, it would be a good thing for you to take the clips of it. Now, my problem with it, to be, I guess, I don't know, politically correct, although he mentioned a whole lot of things toward Christmas, at the end of the day, right at the end of the episode, he basically keeps a Christmas that has no connection to the other things, but at the end of the day, he still kept Christmas. So, you kind of have to read in between the lines to see that, yeah, he's mentioning the things, but then he still doesn't have any biblical convictions that then lead to, hey, this is something that you need to leave alone. We're going to begin tonight in Zechariah chapter 10. Zechariah chapter 10, and we're going to start that at verse 1. And I didn't catch the entire episode, but what I did see was it was pretty good in dealing with the things, even showing how the Santa Claus and old Saint Nick supposedly came about. And at the end of the day, we know that once people are emotionally attached to some things, it's going to be very difficult to release those things that are connected by emotional attachment. Zechariah chapter 10, and let's start that at verse 1.
Ask you of Yahweh rain in the time of the latter rain. So Yahweh shall make bright clouds and give them showers of rain to everyone grass in the field.
Right. And like I always say, none of this means anything as long as you have a Walmart that has all of these frankenfoods that they can grow in a lab. As long as there's food, we really don't consider the nutritional value of the food, because with the frankenfoods, they make frankenfoods actually look better than regular food. I mean, they make the colors on it like vibrant. They make the stuff so it looks like, it's not spoiled. You look at some of this freshly grown, untouched things, and you'll see imperfections in it. You don't see imperfections in the franken fruit. So when you read these things, giving showers of rain to everyone grass in the field, these things don't mean much to us now. And this is something that we don't really see, that this has also caused the love of Yahweh to decline in our heart, because we really don't have to depend on him or to depend on anything that proceeds out of heaven for our sustenance. I mean, there's a store on every corner. So we just go to the store. And meanwhile, these farmers have been either forced out of business or forced into business with some of the real evil conglomerates that forced them to do things the way that benefits the daughter of Babylon. Go ahead.
Verse 2. For the idols have spoken vanity, and the diviners have seen a lie, and have told false dreams. They comfort in vain.
They comfort in vain. And what our people have gotten accustomed to is going to church and listen to somebody tell them, God is not angry with you. Everything is going to go your way. You're not going to have any problems. You give this money, you're going to get sevenfold. Everything positive. Not understanding that the biggest part of strengths, the biggest part of how people are able to make it through hard times is because other hard times that they already made it through. But we want the power of those things without those things, and it just doesn't happen. Go ahead.
Therefore they went their way as a flock. They were troubled, because there was no shepherd. Mine anger was kindled against the shepherds, and I punished the goats. For Yahweh of hosts has visited his flock, the house of Yehudah, and has made them as his goodly horse in the battle.
Has made them as his goodly horse in the battle. So when you read in Daniel that the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom, you know, when you talk about all of those things that are basically said in several places, you understand that the children of Israel have a role to play in this. The issue is this role is not going to be played just with the fleshly man who says, you know, I'm black, so I'm Israel, or I'm of this tribe, and no. He's not going to ride any old horse. The king don't ride any old horse. Believe you me, that is a trained horse, a ready-made weapon of spiritual destruction that he's going to ride to battle. So it has to be polished and prepared for battle. And that's what some of these issues and problems and all of those things that we encounter, that's what a lot of that is supposed to do, to get us ready for battle. Go ahead.
Verse 4. Out of him came forth the corner, out of him the nail, out of him the battle bow, out of him every oppressor together. And they shall be as mighty men, which tread down their enemies in the mire of the streets in the battle.
Right. They shall be as mighty men. So basically the entire doctrine that we received on Sunday morning, that you just die and zip chain go to heaven, it didn't require any sacrifice on our part. There's absolutely nothing that we had to do. Basically, all you had to do is die and call out Jesus, and you went to heaven immediately. Although the book says something else, when you talk about these things, that Yahweh is setting forth righteousness on the earth, and he's going to use earthly men to carry these things out. So now there's a part, and I keep hearing that thing, especially among televangelists, is there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you have to do for this. And that is completely false. There is definitely something that you have to do. There is definitely a part for the children of Israel and the inhabitants of the earth to do to bring about this holy and righteous kingdom. You're just not just going to sit there and he does everything and we don't change anything. We don't have to go through anything. We don't have to deal with anything. That is, you show me a kid who have not gone through anything, and I guarantee you I'll show you the weakest person in the room. This is what the whole statement of that dude being, what was the term? He was suffer from affluenza, because he had so much. They said he never learned the difference between right and wrong. And it is amazing that somebody can actually, you know, present that as an argument. But when you consider how and what our people have gone through, we all know of somebody who has a child that they have provided everything for that child, and the child is rotten to the core. It doesn't matter how much they give them. The child never stops being rotten. So why would Yahweh want that for us? Of course he wants to provide things for us, but why would he want to give us so much that we become so rotten that we are not of any use to him? Go ahead.
And they shall fight, because Yahweh is with them, and the riders on horses shall be confounded. And I'll strengthen the house of Yehudah, and I'll save the house of Yosef, and I'll bring them again to the place, to place them, for I have mercy upon them, and they shall be as though I had not cast them off. For I am Yahweh their El, and I will hear them.
For I will have mercy upon them, and they shall be as though I had not cast them off. So even with all of the losses that we've taken, even with all of the things that we've gone through, by the time we are restored, it's going to look like we have not gone through anything. But we're going to suffer great losses. Yet, by the time Yahweh restores us, we're going to be great in nature. Because understand, he says, I'm going to bring all of them out, but I'm going to purge out the rebels. See, then the children of Israel can be fruitful and multiply. See, a lot of times things, we try to get things to happen in the wrong order. We're ready to be fruitful and multiply, but at this point, if you're being fruitful and multiply, that means you're multiplying all the bad seeds as well. So he said, no, we're going to bring them all out, then I'm going to purge them out. Then he can work with that. Because if you start multiplying all the evil seed, man, it's not going to take long for the entire nation to be completely upside down. Go ahead.
Zechariah chapter 10 and verse 7. And they of Ephraim shall be like a mighty man, and their heart shall rejoice as through wine. Yes, their children shall see it, and be glad. Their heart shall rejoice in Yahweh. I will hiss for them, and gather them, for I have redeemed them, and they shall increase as they have increased. And I'll sow them among the people, and they shall remember me in far countries, and they shall live with their children and turn again. I will bring them again also out of the land of Egypt, and gather them out of Assyria, and I'll bring them into the land of Gilead and Lebanon, and place shall not be found for them.
Place shall not be found for them. So the children of Israel are going to grow so large. It's interesting when you read these prophecies, you don't read anything about him saying he's going to go and get them out of Germany. And that everybody's going to come from that one place. Because the occupiers are saying, basically, there's no need to look for any lost tribes. They got everything covered. Don't look for anything else. All the people have been found. Go ahead and go about your business. Go ahead.
And he shall pass through the sea with affliction, and shall smite the waves in the sea, and all the deeps of the river shall dry up. And the pride of Assyria shall be brought down, and the scepter of Egypt shall depart away. And I'll strengthen them in Yahweh, and they shall walk up and down in his name, saith Yahweh.
Keep going.
Zechariah chapter 11 and verse 1. Open your doors, O Lebanon, that the fire may devour your cedars.
Now, we have to understand what was happening in Israel, and Donald Trump is helping to play his role in that is they want to multiply that land and take, what they call greater Israel, because we've gotten accustomed to seeing the little sliver that they call Israel, but that prophesied land is much bigger than what is currently inhabited by so-called Israelis. But this means that there's going to have to be a large-scale war, because it's about 4, maybe 5 countries that are going to have to give away a piece of their land for the greater Israel picture to take place. So these people are really about that business of trying to make that happen. Go ahead.
Howl, fir tree, for the cedar is fallen, because the mighty are spoiled. Howl, O you oaks of Bashan, for the forest of the vintage is come down. There is a voice of the howling of the shepherds, for their glory is spoiled. A voice of the roaring of young lions, for the pride of Jordan is spoiled. Thus saith Yahweh, my Elohim, feed the flock of the slaughter, whose possessors slay them, and hold themselves not guilty. And they that sell them say, blessed be Yahweh, for I am rich.
Right. We have been sold, as it says in Joel chapter 3, they will sell a boy for a harlot and a girl for wine. We can look at those old movies like Book of the Negroes and see that they sold the children of Israel for cognac. Barrels of liquor and wine. And as long as these people were making money, they didn't, really care. And even to this day, with all of the things that are going on, we're talking about people still being sold as slaves right in Libya because of the destabilization of that Middle East, and certain powers that be need to make sure that those things are destabilized so that they can continue to take over. Go ahead.
And their own shepherds pity them. Verse 6. For I will no more pity the inhabitants of the land, says Yahweh. But, lo, I will deliver the men, every one into his neighbor's hand, and into the hand of his king. And they shall smite the land, and out of their hand I will not deliver them. And I'll feed the flock of slaughter, even you, O poor of the flock. And I took unto me 2 staves, the one I call beauty, and the other I call bands, and I fed the flock. 3 shepherds also I cut off in 1 month, and my soul loathed them, and their soul also abhorred me.
The people who truly hate Yahweh, they're going to show that they hate Yahweh. When we read about it, it says, those that love me and keep my commandments. See, there's some things that are connected to what true love is. And it's not that little mushy thing about what we think it is. If you love me, keep these commandments, and it ain't always nice keeping those commandments. Keeping those commandments might cause you to be at a point where you might lose a friend or two. Do you love him enough to lose a friend or two? Go ahead.
Verse 9. Then said I will not feed you. That dies, let it die. And that is to be cut off, let it be cut off. And let the rest eat every one the flesh of another. And I took my staff, even beauty, and cut it asunder, that I might break my covenant which I had made with all the people. And it was broken in that day. And so the poor of the flock that waited upon me knew that it was the word of Yahweh. And I said unto them, if you think good, give me my price, and if not, forbear. So they weighed for my price 30 pieces of silver.
Right. So we see then on this price in which these holy things were purchased for, and we go in the New Testament and we can find traces of all of those things, so we can see that Yahweh truly does set up all of these things before it comes to pass in dealing with men. Go ahead.
And Yahweh said unto me, cast it unto the potter, a goodly price that I was priced at of them. And I took the 30 pieces of silver and cast them to the potter in the house of Yahweh. Then I cut asunder mine other staff, even bands, that I might break the brotherhood between Yehudah and Israel. And Yahweh said unto me, take unto you yet the instruments of a foolish shepherd. For, lo, I will raise up a shepherd in the land, which shall not visit those that be cut off, neither shall seek the young one, nor heal that is broken, nor feed that stands still. But he shall eat the flesh of the fat, and tear their claws in pieces. Woe to the idle shepherd that leaves the flock.
Now, when you talk about he doesn't deliver any of those people, he's too busy taking all of the money from them by telling these people that, you're going to receive sevenfold, you're going to receive such and such, but give all that you have, and then these things given to you or added to you or what so have you. They're actually devouring the people, and knowing that they're not keeping any commandments, that they're not keeping any of the ways of Yahweh. So this is truly devouring the people. This is a shepherd that does not deserve to have a flock. But the irony is that the ones that don't deserve to have a flock by their treatment of the flock, those are the ones who have the biggest flock. Go ahead, brother.
Woe to the idle shepherd that leaves the flock. The sword shall be upon his arm, and upon his right eye. His arm shall be clean dried up, and his right eye shall be utterly darkened.
All right, let's go to Revelation chapter 18.
Revelations chapter 18 and verse 1. And after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory.
Now, everybody is preparing us to get ready to deal with this visitation, but how they're giving it to us is all about, what's their term? These going to be space people. They're going to be aliens. See? So they're getting us ready, but by alien. So we're talking about an angel, a servant of Yahweh, and we're talking about these things, entities taking on the bodily shape of men. But we know that they're going to have, more power, of course, than mortal man. So they're getting ready for these things. It is more things about aliens than you could ever just imagine. I mean, they're just flooding the market with more and more talk. So this is to get you ready for these other things, and that you can still see them and still not recognize it as anything that has to do with a heavenly being. You can then deal with any of these strange things that end up coming upon the earth. You can take it in a physical form. Even though you see it, you can take it as, this must be some kind of alien invasion. And what will that do? That will keep people from repenting. See, one thing, if you remember back when they had the whole Y2K thing, and they were saying, we don't know what the computers are going to do, because all the computers were never set to go past 2000. Okay? So this was a big thing. So they was like, okay, is the computer going to do this? Is it going to shut down all of these things? All of a sudden, church attendance shot up. Because people thought, 2000, and, then Prince made that song, 1999, because that was also that 1999 song, Prince was Jehovah's Witness. And that was one of their prophecies of when the world was going to end. So this is the song that he did about that. So, and even now, the song is still played, but I mean, he's talking about war stuff. Mommy, why does everybody have a bomb? These are the words in the song, and people are so busy, dancing, that we don't really get what, that was about. But even in that sense, it kind of took 1999, the world is going to end, so let's party like hell. Let's not try and get our life right. Let's just party like it's going out of style. Instead of, how about we should, repent of our deeds? Go ahead.
Like you were saying, even with this, with the aliens, one way, shape, or form, they're giving us something of some entity coming out of the sky. Because even if you watch the Justice Leagues or whatever these new movies they're throwing, it's always this entity coming to take over the earth, and human beings can't really cope with this, so somebody's gonna have to fight these beings.
You need some gods to go against some other gods, and it is very interesting that there's more and more of these angel / godlike themes that are hitting the movie screen, and regular man has no power, and he has to depend on something else. Now, what's interesting, if they already have the something else that they're preparing you to take to, get ready for that thing. See, this is how that goes. Let's prepare them to go ahead and do this or this or this, but we're not going to say that's what we want. We're just going to lead them into it. And a lot of times we are being programmed on what to deal with, and we don't know it. The musical director on a radio station is a program director. He or she is setting the program for what music is going to be played, and you find that oftentimes it takes a while for the best music to be played. The program director is programming you on what you like. There are certain things and certain songs that you've heard, and automatically you say, you know what, man, I do not like that song. But about the 15th time you've heard it, you look up and you find yourself humming this song, and you have to ask yourself, why exactly am I humming a song that I do not like? Because the program director has done his job. He has thus programmed you that this is something you like. And you say, I don't like it. Then yes, you do. No, I don't. Yes, you do. No, I don't. Yes, you do. Okay, maybe I do. See, eventually doing those things and showing those things over and over and over and over and over, you then get a thought process in your head of how things are supposed to go. But it's being dictated to you whether you know it or not. Go ahead.
Revelations chapter 18 and verse 2. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird.
Right. And what it is it's just the deserts of the daughter of Babylon. I mean, the wickedness has grown so much. And what has happened here, I mean, we know about the things of the, excuse me, robbing and killing and things of that nature. The things that we don't see are the other things, or the things that are not brought to light. And how the evil of how they've just made up this system to take people's homes. People's homes can be foreclosed after, not paying for, 60 days. And they might have been paying for 15 or 18 years straight. But the minute they get behind, those people are taking it. And that's not the extent of the evil part. The extent of the evil part is within 18 years, they have now gained equity in that house. And especially a lot of poor people didn't know and understand what equity was. So even when they took that house, there was some money that those people were supposed to get even after they took it. And there were several mortgage companies that ended up getting sued because they had kind of stolen the equity out of houses that they had either seized or did things, and they were mostly, of course, in lower income black neighborhoods. So the people who was able to keep their houses, those people got a little money, but the people who lost it, they didn't give it back. It's just gone. And that's part of the wickedness of the daughter of Babylon. There's so much wickedness that's around us that we don't see. I got ready to deal with some insurance. It is amazing how insurance dictates everything. This is what happens when you have lobbyists and you can pay. This is why the entire system is corrupt. Because you can pay somebody to go to Washington, D.C. and say, this is what I want. I got money. This is what I want. You can pay lobbyists who will then go and solicit congressmen and other people and say, I have a client. This is what they want. This is how much money we have. Next thing you know, there's a law in effect that helps that person's business. I got ready to add insurance on a truck that I've been had for years. It's been sitting in my backyard. I'm getting it worked on. Insurance company told me, you got too many cars. I said, excuse me? So we have to look into your background because you have more cars than people. I said, what kind of man? You know you evil, you know, that you're in an evil system when people can start questioning how you spend your money. Then they want to know, you know, we need to see this. We need to see that. And insurance is so crazy. Let me tell you, if you cancel insurance, you better make sure you got everything in writing because they have paid their lobbyists to set them up real good. If you don't pay your insurance, these people can then have your license revoked and now you can't drive any car. So when you cancel some insurance, you have to make sure you put everything in writing, that those people show you something in writing, or just to be vindictive. You cancel them, they say, all right. They'll send that thing to the DMV saying this person canceled their insurance. They didn't pay their insurance. Boom, license revoked. And nobody tells you. You just ride around until the day somebody pulls you over and find out that you've been riding on suspended license. So it's one thing to have an expired license. It's something else to have suspended license. Now, if you get into an altercation with the police, you automatically look guilty because you're driving around on suspended license that you didn't even know you had. Go ahead.
Verse 3. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the anger of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her. And the merchants of the earth have waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies.
Right. So all of the earth then have to deal with the system that has been set up by the daughter of Babylon. I was looking at some things that they were talking about Bitcoin, and they were saying, you know, it is make-believe currency. And then the guy was saying, you know, but then again, every other currency is a make-believe currency. He says none of this stuff is backed behind, you know, backed by gold. So it's not it's pretty much in the same boat. The problem is the IRS and the tax man take dollars. So they force you to deal with theirs, even though it may not be backed behind anything anymore. They're going to force you to have this currency. And that's the same thing that's going on, that this is how oil is traded based on this dollar. And when and if that changes, and there are major players in the making to make this change, when it changes, if indeed that ever changes, the outlook upon America is going to change from one day to the next. I mean drastically change from like night and day. Go ahead.
And I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that you be not partakers of her sins, and that you receive not of her plagues.
Right. You come out of her spiritually, even before you are forced to come out of her naturally. You come out of her by not dealing with all of these things. So a lot of these things, once you get in the system, you start partaking of those things, then you're giving up your rights to do anything else by participating in this system. So you come out of her. This is a spiritual thing way before this is a physical thing. Because there are a whole lot of things that we see around us that we can just decide, no, I'm not going to deal with that. But because these things have been made so abundantly easy to get, easy to deal with, to deal with electronic currency, to deal with all of these things, it puts you further and further in that system. I remember looking at a television program where there was this, white guy who had some land, and he had his little trailer and all of this stuff out on his land, and they did everything to bother this man because he was completely outside of their system, and it bothered them. He didn't. He collected rainwater. He had, like solar generator, all of these things. They told him because unless he set up to receive power from the county, they were going to condemn his house and kick him off of his own land. All because he had come out of that system, and it angered them that he was not a part of that system. Go ahead.
Revelation chapter 18 and verse 5. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and Elohim has remembered her lawlessness. Reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her double according to her works. In the cup which she has filled to her double. In the cup in which she has filled to her double.
It's like people don't believe that, when it says, you shall reap what you sow, those things that you put out there, those are the things that are going to return back to you again. Go ahead.
How much she has glorified herself and lived deliciously. So much torment and sorrow give her. For she says in her heart, I sit a queen, and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow.
There's a reason why there's Lady Liberty was given unto America with a crown upon her head. I sit a queen, and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. How much she has glorified herself and lived deliciously. There are things that we throw away here in America that you do not even understand how much those things are wanted by other people. And it's sad, how spoiled we were, how spoiled we are. I've been having, work done on my pipes for the, past day and a half, and couldn't flush the toilet. Oh my God. For one day. Oh man, you have no idea just how spoiled we get in one day of not being able to, run the water. It is utterly amazing when he's talking about just living deliciously and all of these, having all of these things. When these things are taken, we're talking about just one major power outage and everything goes away. I mean, almost everything goes away instantly, and you have major issues. And we're not prepared for it. We're not preparing for it mentally, physically is one thing. Being prepared for it mentally and spiritually is something altogether different. When we did have a power outage in one of the little storms or whatnot, being in a neighborhood that was completely have a lot of trees, it was, my kids were coming outside at night, and it wasn't like it was really late, just in fear and amazement because they had never seen anything that dark ever before, ever. And they're like, what kind of dark is this? And I'm like, this is regular dark. This is like real dark. But when you just drive down the street and there's a light on every porch, on every step, you don't really understand how much light that is. And quite frankly, and there's certain parts about living deliciously that we don't that we don't even consider. So you got all these lights, right? What the hell are they being used for? Like, who out there? And I've gone to like really rich houses where they had like a really, really big, pretty weeping willow. They had two of them. And then had huge spotlights at the bottom aiming up at the weeping willow at night. It was absolutely beautiful. It really was. Completely wasteful. Like the tree, like I don't know I'm a tree unless you shine this light and I get to see myself at night. We don't consider how much of that is complete living in, deliciousness, and you're just wasting all of that. It is complete waste for no reason. The power company love Christmas because now the whole object is not for you to light for yourself to see. Now all the light is for everybody else to see. So you decorate the house, you put all of these lights on, and then you go out of town and leave the lights on, which used to be a thing. Whatever you done in the room, turn the lights out. Not with this. You are purposely turning it on while you're not there. You find people upset because they like, man, they outside or they haven't made it home yet and it's dark and they didn't set their lights to come on. And they're upset because now it's dark and their Christmas lights ain't blinking yet. Go ahead.
I mean, you think about just all these all-you-can-eat restaurants that's here, and then they talk about all these people starving. You want to see something funny, you take someone who comes from an environment where there's not an all-you-can-eat, and take them to one of those restaurants, and you go, oh, you can go back for more, huh? You don't have to pay for it? You will see people sample things that normally they would never eat.
Right.
And just take a bite out and put it aside once they realize, oh,
yeah,
I can have my go at it and I don't have to pay.
Well, and that's what, when you live in a wasteful place, it makes wastefulness okay. So you get accustomed to it. And we all have some really wasteful ways that we've picked up, whether we know it or deal with it, whether we acknowledge it, it's still there. And a lot of times you don't know it, or you don't have to deal with it until it's taken away. Go ahead.
Verse 8. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burnt with fire. For strong is the Adonai Elohim who judged her. And the kings of the earth, who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her, shall bewail her and lament for her when they shall see the smoke of her burning.
Right. Now, we've put all of this, all of our money is gone. All of the countries that make all of these drugs, they're going to be upset when the daughter of Babylon falls. Because it's like, this is where we sell all our drugs. These are the most drug-using people on the face of the planet. So the drug cartels are going to cry. We're talking about murderous, rich drug dealers will cry at the fall of Babylon. Because now the question is, who gonna buy all our drugs? Go ahead.
Standing afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is your judgment come. And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buys their merchandise anymore.
Right. Who gonna buy all our cocaine now something happened to her? Well, we gonna sell all these pharmaceuticals. Because these the highest pharmaceutical drugs in the world. And all you have to do is look at the commercial. 1 minute they were selling something, and it's crazy. If you're at home during the day, like, because it seems funny how when they play these commercials about the drug companies, and because if you're sick and you've gotten hurt, obviously you ain't at work. Because of taking some of these drugs, they'll have these drugs on these commercials about the lawsuits that come from these using these drugs, and sometimes you'll see the advertisement for the drug and the lawsuit against the drug in the same sitting. And it threw me off one time when I seen it, and they're telling you how good the drug is. Then, an hour or two later, you know, I'm still sitting there, and boom. Now here comes the lawyer advertising for the class action lawsuit against the same drug. And I'm like, and that one I just seen on the TV, on the same one I'm looking at. And it's utterly amazing. The way that they sell medicine here is ridiculous. They'll have the same medicine that they'll give to an animal, and it'll be 5 cents a pill. They'll take that same medicine, sell it to a human at $65, $70 a pill. And they were selling it for a nickel because they know there's no emotional attachment with that animal. So they have to provide that for those people that care about those animals. And these are like farm animals. They're doing these things in abundance. They're not going to pay that kind of money. But they can get people emotional enough to pay that money. And this is part of the evil of Babylon. The most evil of Babylon we don't even see. The things that we think are evil, there's evil that's going on that's way worse than that. Go ahead.
Verse 12. The merchandise of gold and silver and precious stones, and of pearls and fine linen, and purple and silk and scarlet, and your wood, and all manner of vessels of ivory, and all manner of vessels of most precious wood, and of brass and iron and marble, and cinnamon, and odors, and ointments, and frankincense, and wine, and oil, and fine flour, and wheat, and beasts, and sheep, and horses, and chariots, and slaves.
And see, that's the part that throw you off. They start talking about all this stuff, and then they be like, and slaves. They're like, whoa, 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 whoa. Same thing, right? You selling all this stuff, and chariots, and horses, and wheat, and beasts, and slaves. Whoa, right? So, because the slavery just has been transformed and dealt with in a different way, at the very doing away of slavery gave birth to the industrialized prison complex. The entire thing. So we know for a fact that the prisons were developed to be another slavery for the people that they claim they just free. And today we can see it as clear as day. There's just a few corporations that really own all the privatized prisons, and they charge for everything. They charge you to go to the doctor. They do charge you for this, charge you for that. You get to fighting, and you might get a disorderly charge, and these things are then, and it's amazing because you say, okay, they're prisoners, they're poor, they don't have any money. Well, no, they brought this work in, and now they're doing hardcore labor for pennies on the day, and then they'll still take some of those pennies if they get in trouble, and then they can, of course, then charge their families or their loved ones that they then use that emotional attachment to get all of this money out of them. Go ahead.
And souls of men. And the fruits that your soul lusted after are departed from you, and all things which were dainty and goodly are departed from you, and you shall find them no more at all. The merchants of these things, which were made rich by her, shall stand afar off for the fear of her torment, weeping and wailing, and saying, Alas, alas, that great city, that was clothed in fine linen, and purple, and scarlet, and decked with gold, and precious stones, and pearls. For in 1 hour so great riches is come to naught. And every shipmaster, and all the company in ships, and sailors, and as many as trade by sea, stood afar off.
Right, for in 1 hour so great riches is come to naught. When you talk about destruction and that quick, we know that the more powerful a country is, the faster it has to fall. Because if there's any indication of where the fall has come from, on its way out, it'll take, a whole country out. This is why when you go to reading some of those things, it says they shall go from post to post, telling one another that the land at one end has fallen, which lets you know that that communication then has to be down at that point. They had a what they say, they had a underground fire at Hartsfield Airport, and it shut out all power, all the generator, everything. What was interesting was not only did it shut down power and these people were just stuck there. How about communications didn't work? You had people who were coming outside because somehow no phones worked either. So you had a fire. Now first they reported they didn't know what happened. Like they were trying to figure out why all the power went away. So we're talking completely black. And at that point, you can't land a plane. You can't do anything. A plane can't take off. In that short span, it caused a multitude of problems. And that was only a power outage in one place. That was in one location. And the multitude of the troubles that power outage in one location caused was just enormous. Go ahead.
And cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, What city is like unto this great city? And they cast dust on their heads and cried, weeping and wailing, saying, Alas, alas, that great city, wherein were made rich all that had ships in the sea by reason of her costliness. For in 1 hour is she made desolate.
Right. And they cast dust on their heads and cried, weeping and wailing, saying, Alas, that great city, wherein were made rich all that had ships in the sea. So if you could transport merchandise, you were going to get money because the daughter of Babylon consumes everything. You have some ill-will things, the ill-gotten things to sell. You can find a buyer in the daughter of Babylon. So it is going to cause the people who are trying to make money, they're going to have a hard time when they see what happens to the daughter of Babylon. Go ahead.
But here they're talking about these were made rich that had ships. And where did all the richness start?
Yeah.
Like they mentioned up above, slaves.
Right. Hey, that was merchandise, and that was how they transported that merchandise. And because it was a business thing, they kept records. This is how we know all of the stuff that we know. Business, the one thing you're going to find out about the difference between individuals and business. And when you deal in any business, you'll find that, like, most people who are not in business, they'll go to the store, and most of them will never even keep their receipt or even hold their receipt. What people are doing now, they'll hold their receipt because they want to take it back, just in case something happened to it. So they're really not holding their receipts for tax purposes. When you're in business, you have to document all of those things because it helps you. It then becomes a write-off that you can then use that write-off to actually keep more money. So being that this was a business venture, it was in their best thing to go ahead and admit, yeah, it was 1,000 slaves on here, but we had some issues, so we had to drop 200. That was actually beneficial to them. And people like, why would you even write that down? Write off. I got to write off 200 slaves. I had these slaves and I couldn't bring them all the way. My ship got heavy. So I had to go ahead and dump off, these 200 here. So I'm going to need to write this off, on my taxes. Because I had to, drop those into the sea and let the sharks eat them.
Show loss.
Yeah. And that's exactly what happens in business. You keep your receipts for your for your gas, because you write that off, that's a loss. So this is, the way that the daughter of Babylon is made actually proves what they have done to us. Go ahead.
Verse 20. Rejoice over her, you heaven, and you holy apostles and prophets, for Elohim have avenged you on her. And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone, and cast it into the sea, saying, Thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. And the voice of harpers and musicians, and of pipers and trumpeters, shall be heard no more at all in you. And no craftsman, of whatsoever craft he be, shall be found any more in you. And the sound of a millstone shall be heard no more at all in you.
So now you're talking about utter destruction in the point where it is not livable. Now the question is whether that's going to be done in a array of things, whether it would be one thing. But just like America know that there's this huge caldera, this underground volcano that they know at some point has to blow. You have all of these things in a that's in the national park, and you're talking about every now and then it relieves pressure and starts shooting up bubbling water and all of these things. At some point when those things blow, you're talking about something that's like several times some of these bombs that have been dropped. So it's going to cause an enormous amount of damage. Then you have to ask yourself, what really would happen if somebody shot a bomb directly at it? So now you're talking about a bomb that hits a bomb. Then of course you have some serious issues there. So there's a lot of different scenarios to go in your mind when you talk about in 1 hour and 1 day. And if you haven't heard of that caldera, you look up just how big that thing is, and you'll find that even scientists say if and when, they already know it's going to go off. But when it does, it is going to completely redraw the map of the United States. Right. And if y'all didn't hear that, it said that they're finding out that it is even bigger than they originally thought that it was. So we're talking about if somebody, like, why go into these organized things of fighting, doing all of these things when they got a bomb sitting right there in the middle and they're trying their best to keep it from blowing. And you have to ask yourself, what kind of military protection is around a national park? And they're not guarding it. Because for so long, they didn't know what to do with it or just ignoring it. So it's not like they're gathered around it to protect it. So here it is, you have an invading army, and they're saying, hey, we're coming up this way, and we're meeting other soldiers. And then somebody else said, what? There's no soldiers over there where that big underground bomb is. Let's shoot something over there, because they keep trying to protect us or fight to keep us from going. Shoot one right there. And if you think these other countries don't know it's there, you are sadly mistaken. They study these things. They know exactly. One of the biggest parts of war is logistics. There's so many wars that have been lost by the way that they were able to receive supplies or not able to receive supplies. You cut off their supplies and you starve the soldiers. You can have the best weapon in the world, but if you can't get the bullets and they cut off the supply line so that won't reach you, now your fine rifle is nothing but a glorified stick. All you can do is swing it at somebody. That's it. Your pistol ain't nothing but a rock. Once you shoot out all the bullets, you can just throw it. See if you can hit them. Go ahead.
Verse 23. And the light of a candle shall shine no more at all in you, and the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in you. For your merchants were the great men of the earth, for by your sorceries were all nations deceived. And in her was found the blood of prophets, and of saints, and of all that were slain upon the earth.
Right. The children of Israel are shot dead in the middle of the street, and no one takes any of that to heart. No one cares about any of those things. They don't even consider any of that. Let's go to Ezekiel chapter 37. Ezekiel 37, and let's start that at verse 1.
The hand of Yahweh was upon me, and carried me out in the spirit of Yahweh, and set me down in the midst of the valley which was full of bones, and caused me to pass by them round about. And, behold, there were very many in the open valley, and, lo, they were very dry. And he said unto me, Son of man, can these bones live? And I answered, O Adonai Yahweh, you know it.
Right, and the dryness of the children of Israel is how we have picked up the ways of the heathen. I mean, we have become extremely dry in all of those things. When you talk about us being given all of this righteous law, we will run away from any of those things to keep the ways of Babylon. So when you're talking about these real dry bones spiritually, we have gotten so far away from the culture that Yahweh has given us. We have completely dried up. Go ahead.
I mean, you said recently, you know, our problem is we're afraid to find out that we're actually someone, or, you know, we've got a place. And I bypassed one of these preachers talking to his congregation, and he basically was telling this congregation that this is a brother saying, oh, I love my people, you're going to think I hate my people. But he said the black man has never done anything. He said, I'm not talking about Egypt because that wasn't the black man. That's not in Africa. Like, what the heck? Where you think that's at? This man, we've never created anything. So in his eyesight, we were living there with no septic tanks. We didn't build houses of stone. We had straw. And this is his conversation to his congregation.
Right.
We were living in straw houses, and I'm sitting there like, you've got a problem. You've got a problem. You're sitting there telling your whole congregation that they're nothing.
Right.
They've never been anything. I agreed with him when he said, y'all women who helped this man buy this $63 million plane, y'all got problems. I agreed with you there. Right. But when you told that we are nothing, we've never done anything, never created anything, like, you obviously, the book that you've got in front of you, you don't know who it's about.
Well, you know, that's that thing. You're not, if you go to any seminary school, you're not going to be taught who this book is really about. And it is amazing because people who have that so-called uh, uh, mainstream education in this book are the ones that have the most tainted view of what's really in this book, because you have that education versus indoctrination. And being indoctrinated, those things are told, but then it's also told to them how to deal with it, how this needs to be brought forth. So you kind of learn a lot, just even in dealing with homeschooling your kids. You start to pick up some things. See, me going to school, I know that as a child, a teacher can do some things to make you feel less than what you are. Mm-hmm. But as a child, the child won't be able to articulate that to their parent, because this is a grown person, 30, 35 plus years old, and then you got a 8, 9-year-old kid. And all the kid know, even if that kid is all the way in high school, those people just get slicker in their ways of doing things. So you find that there's these slight things to try to give you this low self-esteem at an early age, so that it will follow you even when you become better at doing things. You still have this doubt in your mind that, I'm really not going to be able to do this. I really can't do such and such, not knowing that it was teachers that put that in your head in the 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. See, there was a time back then, our people were taught in our own neighborhood by the various people in those neighborhoods. So those old teachers cared about those students. Yeah, we didn't have the best of books. We didn't have all of those things, but you were taught by people who really cared for you, and they were not trying to give you low self-esteem. You have to consider how things have evolved, even in the whole thing of the police force. It's well known, if you are a redneck and you want to kill black people, what's the job what's the best job for you? Policeman. You get to do this stuff, and it will go not necessarily under the radar because we all see it, but ain't nothing we can do about it. Go ahead, you had something?
Yeah, it's all, that's all a part of having dropped our history through the cracks of history. Where we're not thinking about the fact that even when, we were scattered all through Africa, it's a known fact in all those other lands that we were skilled laborers. They were iron workers and farmers, and they were skilled in horticulture and all this other the same kind of things, gifts that we have today. So that's a part of us having taken on that lie that they want us to believe, and then we reteach it to our own children, unfortunately.
Yep. And there used to be a time, if you remember, if you were driving down the road and there was a bunch of people working on the road, you didn't see nothing but us.
Right.
There was a time that there was certain jobs. There was a time that when you went on a construction site, you saw a whole bunch of us. Mm-hmm. Now you see a lot of the Hispanics. Now you come you come and drive up on the road, and you don't see any black people out there working on the road at all. So it is helped reinforce that thing that they don't do anything. And that's what the whole thing of a project, what the projects was. It was a project, and the project was to see if through giving can they take. That's what the project was. Because the project was, all right, we will give you a place to stay, but you can't have a job. What? And you cannot be married. Okay, so now we're going to promote the laziness. We're going to promote babies out of wedlock, because you cannot be married. Yet you can keep having kids, but you cannot be married. Wait a minute. So I can have a child in the projects, and you will give me more money if I have another child out of wedlock. Yes. But I can't be married. No. So this project goes on for several generations, and it does exactly what they thought it was going to do. Project mamas gave birth to project babies who became project mamas who had project babies, and so on and so on. And they let this whole project go. The project, and you'll find out just about almost all government projects, they have a kill date. The kill date for the projects came to be. And I ended up working with somebody who worked for the housing authority, and it was their job to clean out, to get rid of all of the people in the projects. And they got rid of all the projects and shut them down, and now you cannot find projects in the metropolitan Atlanta area. Now, they dispersed all of those people out into various areas with a mindset that they no longer support. But it was done on purpose. You have to think about how many generations of people you can hold back if you tell them you cannot be in a productive relationship. Even with the Section 8 that was on the other side of the projects. We will give you this. All right, you people who won't quit your job. All right, we'll let you have this Section 8, but you can't have no man, and we're going to have man check. They come through there and they look to see if they see man clothing. If so, this woman can lose her house. So these things have been purposely put into play to make sure that Israel would be completely dried up. Go ahead.
Ezekiel chapter 37 verse 4. Again he said unto me, prophesy unto these bones, and say unto them, O you dry bones, hear the word of Yahweh. Thus said the Adonai Elohim unto these bones, behold, I will cause breath to enter into you, and you shall live.
Right. He says he blew breath into man, and then man became a living spirit. So you talk about the breath of Yahweh being that spirit, and some people are breathing air, but it's not the spirit of Yahweh. Go ahead.
And I'll lay sinews upon you, and will bring up flesh upon you, and cover you with skin, and put breath in you, and you shall live, and you shall know that I am Yahweh. So I prophesied as I was commanded, and as I prophesied, there was a noise, and behold, a shaking, and the bones came together, bone to his bone. And when I beheld, lo, the sinews and the flesh came up upon them, and the skin covered them above, but there was no breath in them. Then said he unto me, prophesy unto the wind, prophesy, son of man, and say to the wind, thus said the Adonai Yah, come from the four winds, O breath, and breathe upon these slain, that they may live. So I prophesied as he commanded me, and the breath came into them, and they lived, and stood upon their feet, an exceeding great army. Then said he unto me, son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel.
Right, and anytime we were ever taught about the valley of the dry bones, we would hear all of these things in the Christian churches, and everybody would be hacking and hollering and doing all of this stuff. But this sermon would always be over before verse 11. That sermon was always over and done with before 11, because you were never to find out that these bones are the whole house of Israel. There are people that have told me, and I can, I'll say it myself. I didn't see the word Israel. I didn't see Israel in this book before. I mean, I knew of the vague, I had some vague understanding of some things, but I didn't see Israel in this book, and sure didn't see that I was Israel. Go ahead.
Behold, they say, our bones are dried, and our hope is lost. We are cut off for our parts. Therefore prophesy and say unto them, Thus said the Adonai, Behold, O my people, I will open your graves and cause you to come up out of your graves and bring you into the land of Israel.
I will open your graves and cause you to come up out of your graves and bring you into the land of Israel. On Sunday morning, they said, if you coming out of your grave, you going to heaven. The children of Israel come out of their graves, they going to Israel. See, it's a different doctrine being taught. Go ahead.
And you shall know that I am Yahweh, when I have opened your graves, O my people, and brought you up out of your graves, and shall put my spirit in you, and you shall live, and I shall place you in your own land.
Right, so the objective for the children of Israel is to be placed in their own land. But there are other things that have to take place before the children of Israel can be placed in their own land. Go ahead.
Then shall you know that I, Yahweh, have spoken it and performed it, says Yah. The word of Yah came again unto me, saying, Moreover, you son of man, take you one stick and write upon it for Yehudah, and for the children of Israel his companions. Then take another stick and write upon it for Yosef, the stick of Ephraim, and for all the house of Israel his companions.
Right, this divided house of Israel that has come to be, now he's giving this thing about this whole divided nation. For Israel split into a northern and a southern kingdom, and even if you read the things when the Messiah was talking to the woman at the well, she said the Yehudis have no dealings with the Samaritans. This is where the division in amongst the tribes was. She said our fathers, did this. Yaakov did this. Jacob. So she was of the 12 tribes of Israel, but they didn't deal with one another. So you find that now you have these two different sticks. You have this divided house where one house, they close enough, but one still don't deal with the other. So here it is, they can meet at the well. They can meet at the well. But they don't really deal with one another. So this is why the woman said, how is it you being a Yehudi ask,
Drink of me.
you know what I'm saying, ask drink of me? What? Y'all know we don't deal with each other. What's this? So we family. We can meet at the same well, but we ain't gonna deal with each other.
Don't ask me for that.
You know? And then the thing about the Messiah is this is a man talking to a woman, and they like, why are you talking with the woman? What are you talking to her for? Go ahead.
Verse 17. And join them one to another into one stick,
Uh-huh.
and they shall become one in your hand.
Right. So now he's going to take that division that is amongst the children of Israel and do away with that division. He's going to take that division and throw it out. Instead of it being two separate sticks, he's going to join them sticks together and make one stick. Go ahead.
And when the children of your people shall speak unto you, saying, Will you not show us what you mean by these? Say unto them, Thus said the Adonai, Behold, I will take the stick of Yosef, which is in the hand of Ephraim, and the tribes of Israel his fellows, and will put them with him, even with the stick of Yehudah, and make them one stick, and they shall be one in mine hand. And the sticks whereon you writeth shall be in your hand before their eyes. And say unto them, Thus said the Adonai, Behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen, whether they be gone, and will gather them on every side and bring them into their own land.
Right. This is what the true hope of the children of Israel is. The true hope for the children is to be returned into their own land, not this pie in the sky. So by giving us this pie in the sky, now that took our focus off of what it was we were truly supposed to be dealing with. And you have to consider, think about it. When your focus is on the wrong thing, your chances of success have been cut down to 0. And things are made to take your focus. You know, there's a lot of times where we go to the store. Oh my God, I've had this happen to me like several times here lately. Where I go to the store for a thing, but other things in that store take my focus. And I come out of the store with the other things and not the thing that I went to the store for. And it ticked me off so bad I was halfway home and I thought about, genius. You didn't get the thing that you went to the store for. Which means now I got to go all the way back. And now other things are trying to take my focus. But now I'm mad now because I realize that I've been had the first time. So that's what that flesh do. Talk to you. Oh man, you should get this right here. Now you can get this and then you do that. And then after that flesh got you all over here on aisle 4, when the stuff you need on aisle 14, you didn't make it back that far. Because the flesh caught you early. That's why they sit that stuff at the end of the register. That's premium space. That stuff that's sat at the register. So you stand in line. I was just in Lowe's the other day. We're talking about a hardware warehouse. Going out the door, they got candy and drink. And you've been looking at wood and screw. And boy, them snacks start to talk to you right there. And they make the line don't move that good. See, that works in their favor. And especially, you know, if you got kids and you at Walmart, they have placed all of these little bitty toys. And they're at the eye reach of your children. Somebody should just go and count the whoopings that happen right there at the line. There's more whoopings in that line than all over that store. Because that stuff be right there in front of them kids, and they put the most colorful stuff right there to take your focus. So now the children of Israel, our focus is gone. We ain't thinking about going to Israel. We're not thinking about any of that because our pastor done told us that we going to heaven. So we're not focused on this. You go to talk to people about returning to Israel, and they like, man, you must be crazy. I'm going to heaven. Sound better than Israel. Go ahead.
Verse 22. And I'll make them one nation in the land upon the mountains of Israel, and one king shall be king to them all, and they shall be no more two nations, neither shall they be divided into two kingdoms anymore at all.
They will not have a divided house anymore. So when you go in Genesis and read the things going back and forth between Leah and Rachel, those things were prophecies about the divided house of the children of Israel. But when people don't understand that for what it is, that's not what they think that they're reading about a bunch of bickering in one house. So they really don't understand what it is they're reading. Go ahead.
Neither shall they defile themselves any more with their idols, nor with their detestable things, nor with any of their transgressions. But I will save them out of all their dwelling places, wherein they have sinned, and will cleanse them. So shall they be my people, and I'll be their El.
And I will cleanse them. Then they shall be my people, and I will be their Elohim. Go ahead.
And David my servant shall be king over them, and they all shall have one shepherd. They shall also walk in my judgments and observe my statutes and do them.
So even when we talk about David being raised back up And we know that even being a king, we know that the prince is heir to the king. All right? But we know that the true king is Yahshua or Israel. Then you have Dawid, who then the body of Yahshua was brought forth through the seed of Dawid. So now you have this connection, and Dawid shall be king over them. But then you'll find that it is also listed that it says, and he will be prince, because that prince is up under the king. And consider, this is like the flip side of what was given to us before. This was the question that the Messiah said, well, if the Messiah is called the son of David, how can he be that if he came before David? They couldn't answer that question. So now you find the spiritual fulfillment of that very thing. And David, my servant, shall be king over them. Go ahead.
And they shall dwell in the land that I have given unto Jacob my servant, wherein your fathers have dwelt. And they shall dwell therein, even they, and their children, and their children's children forever. And my servant Dawid shall be their prince forever.
Right. So then you went from Dawid being their king to Dawid being their prince in the very next verse. So understanding that the way that it ended up going, the prince came before the king, because you then have the true king of Yahshua was brought forth by the seed, through the seed of Dawid, so that he would have a earthly, kingly connection. Go ahead.
Moreover, I will make a covenant of peace with them. It shall be an everlasting covenant with them, and I'll place them and multiply them, and will set my sanctuary in the midst of them forevermore.
I will place them, and I will multiply them, and will set my sanctuary in the midst of them. Now, if you even consider this, you know that we have to you back up right here. You see verse 26 says that one thing. Go back to verse 24 and read that again.
And Dawid my servant shall be king over them, and they all shall have one shepherd. They shall also walk in my judgments.
Now you go right there. They shall also walk in my judgments and
observe my statutes and do them.
Now, because this law is going to be holy and honorable, then when you go to verse 26, read that again.
Moreover, I'll make a covenant of peace with them. It shall be an everlasting covenant with them, and I will place them and multiply them, and I will set my sanctuary in the midst of them forevermore.
Now, before the sanctuary was moved out of the midst of the children of Israel, because of the great sin of the children of Israel, it was given, and this is hard for us to accept as natural people, that things are taken from us to protect us. But Yahweh separated. No. Move the tabernacle. All right, move it. And whoever wants to then come to the tabernacle, have him come out amongst the people, because if my holiness keep being around them, I'm going to have to kill them. Because Yahweh can't be close to that wickedness that they were doing in their own natural doings. So to protect the children of Israel, he pulled that tabernacle away from them. Now we're talking about, he said, I'm going to set it in the midst of you. So we see that this verifies that the state and the mind state of Israel will have to be changed at this point, because it says they're going to walk in my statutes and they're going to perform my statutes. They're going to do all of those things. So now my sanctuary will be able to be in the midst of them. Before, I couldn't leave it in the midst of them. Go ahead.
My tabernacle also shall be with them. Yes, I will be their El, and they shall be my people. And the heathen shall know that I, Yahweh, do sanctify Israel, when my sanctuary shall be in the midst of them forevermore.
Right. The things that the nations never thought could possibly be accomplished. Is those things that will end up proving to the nations who the children of Israel truly are. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 60. Isaiah chapter 60, and let's start at verse 1.
Arise, shine, for your light is come, and the glory of Yahweh is risen upon you. For, behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness the people. But Yahweh shall arise upon you, and his glory shall be seen upon you.
Right. Gross darkness has covered the people because the people don't consider Yahweh or any of the doctrine that has been given to them. When you talk about gross darkness, it is really gross darkness when you can hold the word of Yahweh our Elohim and still not understand anything in it. Where you can read he that loves me keep my commandments, and yet the majority of the people are taught all of that stuff is done away with and they don't have to keep it. That is gross darkness when you are holding a book and the book says something opposite than what the person who's standing up in front of you is yelling. It is gross darkness for you to still believe this person who's standing there and the book says something else. The book says that, remember the Sabbath, it is a perpetual covenant forever. And then somebody else tell you we can worship on any day. That is gross darkness while you have the book. See, at least the Catholics said, we don't want nobody else to have a book. See? At least their gross darkness among the people, they had a way to continually keep it going. Because they never planned on you having a book, period. So you couldn't question what they implemented because you didn't have no a book to do it. So they did not want the book translated into English at all. They needed it to be only in a place where they could read it, and you know, they just tell you about it. So that way you could not question anything that was given unto them. I don't know if y'all saw this last thing about the Pope, the infamous one who had, you know, molested like all of these children. He was the one in this thing of protecting all of the other people who had done these things. When they got ready to come down on him, the Catholic Church, it shows you that how they were protecting the child molesters. They then, instead of having those people face any prosecution, they then moved them back to the Vatican, where they live the rest of their lives until they die. Now they talking about, oh man, he's going to be given an honorable funeral, and he is the reason behind so much suffering and molestation of kids. And these are other Gentiles who brought all of this out about what was happening in the church, in the Catholic Church, showing these are the things that these people are doing, yet they are completely protected. The various popes, all of them, they have protected these people. And once they join that, of course, they basically have, and I think if people knew that, they might deal with things better. When we look at, you know, the old Mel Gibson and Danny Glover movies, you saw those people in there that were Russian that had diplomatic immunity. Mm-hmm. And you saw them doing all kind of murder. And these dudes were police, and they were told, leave them people alone. Because with diplomatic immunity, they have then a country behind them. And you cannot arrest those people, even though they break the law. So, you have to consider them. If the police are told that there are certain people that have diplomatic immunity and they cannot touch them, they must also be told that other people have no rights and you can kill them. Because the same kind of people keep getting shot. All the people who keep getting shot look the same way. So if this is a known thing that there's diplomatic immunity out there, I don't think I had ever heard anything like that until that movie about diplomatic immunity and that it was a real thing. And this is what happens to the Catholic priests who molest the kids because they are Catholic and their mother organization is outside of this country and they have set themselves up. The Vatican is a country by itself. So all of those priests have diplomatic immunity. If you knew that going in, you might not put your kids anywhere near. See, that's the false hope of some people is that, well, they wouldn't do it because, first of all, they know it's wrong according to God. But then this old man don't want to go to jail. But you ain't understanding that old man ain't going to go to jail. See? It's like if you knew certain things, you may not go forward with it. See? If you walk over to your neighbor's house and you can see that he's holding a gun under them bushes, you might turn around and just go back in the house. So I don't know what he planning on doing with that gun. But if you don't see it, you walk right over there. Just like a sheep being led to slaughter. You have no idea. And you walking right toward it. People need to know that these Catholic popes have diplomatic immunity. That they belong to another country called the Vatican. And you are not going to be able to prosecute them like that. Very few of them have ever gone to jail. Very, very few. And they paid out $1 kajillion and still ain't gonna run out of money. Go ahead.
Isaiah chapter 16 verse 3. And the Gentiles shall come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your rising.
Right. And you got people still out there saying, well, you know, the Gentiles won't be able to receive their salvation. Then you have other people that have these strange things about how Gentiles are going to receive their salvation, but it's going to be later, so we just ignore them right now. We don't deal with them. What? Man, it is some of the strangest doctrine, not understanding that the Euro Gentiles put the work in to get these books translated. Man, it is some of the doctrines that when you talk about gross darkness shall cover the people. It is gross darkness out there in dealing with this word. But you have to look at who benefits. The adversary, the devil, benefits from the children of the word going at one another. Go ahead.
I mean, you just got to look at what manner of hate that has to be, because you think about the same thing. If the Gentiles that fought for our freedom had just sit back and said, well, I read the book. Their creator going to save them. Don't even worry about it.
Right.
Let them go ahead and endure slavery.
Mm-hmm.
The book says they're going to get free anyway. Don't even worry about it.
Right.
Mind your own business. Mind your own business.
Yeah.
Those things wind up being a testimony for them. It could be a testimony to their benefit.
Right.
Or it could be a testimony to their detriment.
Yep. You got it. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 4. Lift up your eyes round about and see. All they gather themselves together. They come to you. Your sons shall come from far, and your daughters shall be nursed at your side.
Uh-huh.
Then you shall see and flow together, and your heart shall fare and be enlarged, because the abundance of the sea shall be converted unto you. The forces of the Gentiles shall come unto you.
Right. The power, the money, the technology, all of those things shall be converted unto you. It shall be given unto you. Go ahead.
The multitude of camels shall cover you, the dromedaries of Midian and Ephah. All they from Sheba shall come, They shall bring gold and incense, and they shall show forth the praises of Yah. All the flocks of Kedar shall be gathered together unto you. The rams of Nebaioth shall minister unto you. They shall come up with acceptance on mine altar. I will glorify the house of my glory. Who are these that fly as a cloud, and as the doves to their windows? Surely the isles shall wait for me, and the ships of Tarshish first, to bring my sons from far, their silver and their gold with them.
Their silver and their gold with them, the ships of Tarshish. You look and find Tarshish is Spain. It was those Spanish ships that brought us here. The Spanish had the long distance ships. That's why those people would be going and getting money from various people, and then those countries would finance the trip, saying, all right, I'll pay for you to go to this place, but when you find gold or you find any of that stuff, I get a portion of it. See? So they got to pay back, and they're forced to the point where this trip better be prosperous. So if it's not prosperous, they got to make it prosperous, meaning they got to take something. Because they got to have something to take back for this ship that was loaned unto them, that was given unto them. Go ahead.
Because even with that, when you think about it, Christopher Columbus was not Hispanic. His ships all had Spanish names.
Yep.
Who did he get them from?
Right.
King Ferdinand and Elizabeth of Spain. Isabella.
Yeah.
So you got to say, okay, so how the British guy got funded by the people of Spain?
He was Italian.
You find out it was, when you go into business, hey man, they'll loan you. To this day, we still have those issues. We're not getting them business loans. Those are business loans. See, we read the things, but we don't really see them for what they are. Those are business loans. They're getting a business loan. You go and find such and such. I'm going to loan you the money, but you got to pay me back. And to this day, they'll give us a loan for a car. They give us a loan to go to college. But try to start a business and see how many hoops they're going to send you through to get a business loan. But they'll put you in debt in a minute.
You got any collateral?
You know? And they don't ask you for any of that to go to college. I'll just sign up. Sign up. Go ahead.
On to the name of Yahweh your Elohim, and the Holy One of Israel, because he has glorified you. And the sons of strangers shall build up your walls, and their kings shall minister unto you.
Now, and just as the other people bring immigrants over, and the immigrants do the work, he said, the sons of the strangers shall do all the work. You're not going to have to do any physical labor. You've done all your labor. You've labored all that you're going to labor. Somebody else going to do this labor now. Go ahead.
For in my anger I smote you, but in my favor have I had mercy on you. Therefore your gates shall be open continually. They shall not be shut day nor night, that men may bring unto you the forces of the Gentiles, and that their kings may be brought. For the nation and kingdom that will not serve you shall perish. Yes, those nations shall be utterly wasted.
Right. This is the payment to the sons of Israel, that for enduring all of those things, these are the things that I'm going to make the nations perform to you. Go ahead.
The glory of Lebanon shall come unto you, the fir tree, the pine tree, and the box together, to beautify the place of my sanctuary, and I will make the place of my feet glorious.
Right. So what the imposters are doing, the occupiers are then trying to steal as many things and land as possible so they could try and make this fit them, rather than Yahweh orchestrating those things. They said, hey, we're going to orchestrate it on our own. Go ahead.
The sons also of them that afflicted you shall come bending unto you, and all they that despised you shall bow themselves down at the soles of your feet. And they shall call you the city of Yahweh, the Zion of the Holy One of Israel.
Right. You have to understand how much it's going to mess with these people's mind that they have consistently seen you and your fellows as the scum of the earth. You have to watch the evening news and see what it does. It shows all the dirty laundry of the children of Israel. Yet when you go to jail, you find all kind of people there. White people, black people, Hispanics. But you don't see none of them people on the news. Just the black ones. White people do stuff, go to jail. You go into jail, you see all these white people, you trying to figure out how they get here. You go to jail, you see all these Hispanics, you say, how they get here? They're not on the news every night. We are. And if you don't know any better, you're allowing that thing. And I'm not even going to say know any better. If you're not aware that it's happening, you're watching it and you are developing a low self-esteem about you and your people. Go ahead.
Whereas you have been forsaken and hated, so that no man went through you. I will make you an eternal excellency, a joy of many generations. You shall also suck the milk of the Gentiles, and shall suck the breast of kings, and you shall know that I, Yahweh, am your Savior and your Redeemer, the mighty one of Yaakov.
Now, when you talk about dealing with this, sucking the breast of kings, it's like, wait a minute, what is that all about? Understand how during slavery, our people had to give up their body, their very substance to feed masses' children, which would then, in a lot of situations, leave no milk for their own children. Because you got to ask yourself, how was this mother able to do that? Because she had a kid herself. But instead of feeding her kid, she had to then feed the master's kid. So you're talking about something pretty deep in having to give up the substance from your own body for another entity. So Yahweh has gone pretty deep in dealing with that right there. So spiritually, he's going to return that unto you. This is why it's not our issue or our something that's put on our hands for us to try and go and get somebody back or do something, because Yahweh knows which one of those are his children and which one of those have to pay for this, that, or what have you. Yahweh knows what he's doing. Go ahead.
Even you just brought that up and just brought to my thought process that even that moment is a time of bonding.
Yeah.
So you see how you end up bonding with someone else's child and not your own?
Yep.
Those are the years of bonding with your child.
Yep.
Verse 17. For brass I will bring gold, and for iron I will bring silver, and for wood brass, and for stones iron.
Right. So now you're dealing with a real multiplication of what you bring. Not that thing, well, I'm going to give you sevenfold. You bring $1, I'm going to give you back 7. No, this the real one. You bring brass, I'm going to give you gold. Iron, silver. This is a real increase. Go ahead.
I will also make your officers peace, and your exactors righteousness. Of islands shall no more be heard in your land, wasting nor destruction within your borders. But you shall call your walls salvation, and your gates praise. The sun shall be no more your light by day, neither for brightness shall the moon give light unto you, but Yahweh shall be unto you an everlasting light, and your Elohim your glory.
Right, because in the beginning it was, he was the light in the first place. Go ahead.
Your sun shall no more go down, neither shall your moon withdraw itself, for Yahweh shall be your everlasting light, and the days of your mourning shall be ended. Your people also shall be all righteous. They shall inherit the land forever.
Once again, we're talking about all of these prophecies. We're talking about all of these things, and they're still talking about inheriting the land. See, the adversary, the devil, has sent his ministers out to tell us that we were going to get some pie in the sky. When Yahweh said, I already gave you a paradise. I gave you a garden in it. I put in it everything you need. There was a tree to make you wise and a tree to make you live forever. I already got that for you. You don't need another place. What you need to do is clean the one I gave you. And that's what he's going to make us do. Go ahead.
The branch of my planting, the work of my hands, that I may be glorified. A little one shall become 1,000, and a small one a strong nation. I, Yahweh, will hasten it in his time.
Right. So, these are some things about, the future and the hope of the children of Israel, because we go through so much, and sometimes even in dealing with, us being this remnant and remnant of our people who know the truth, among these holidays, it gets kind of heavy, and sometimes people don't consider the great things that we're working for. So Yahweh's will keep those things in our heart and mind, and know that for the suffering that we have undergone, that Yahweh has great things in store for those that love him. That's all that we're going to do for tonight. Let's leave out with the prayer. We're rising and facing the east. All males, remove your head covering, and females always pray with their head covered. Abba Father, Most High Covenant Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov, we thank you, Yahweh. We thank you, Heavenly Father, for giving us another opportunity to gather together and read out of this legacy that you have left unto us. Abba Father, we thank you that you have given us a little sanctuary whereby we can gather together in peace and learn about you. We pray, Father, that you would continue to feed us knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of your holy and righteous way. We pray, Father, that you would direct us in your holy and righteous way. And we pray, Father, that you would keep a hedge round about this congregation and all of its members, near and far, that you will protect us from the wiles of the adversary, the devil. For we know that he has great anger against us because we make a attempt at walking in righteousness, that we make an attempt at keeping your commandments. And we pray, Father, that if we fall, we pray that you would dust us off and put us back on that path, that we may ultimately please you in the end. We ask these prayers not only for those that gather with us physically, but even those that gather by way of phones and by way of internet, those that gather out of a pure heart to serve you in truth and in spirit. In Yeshua HaMashiach's holy and divine name we pray. Amen and hallelujah.
Hallelujah.